Hey, it's Courier Girl, and it's time for my 2021 income recap. Today I'm going to show you what I made in 2021, and we're going to go over the income and the expenses and all of that good stuff so you can see exactly what you might expect from a courier job. Now, everybody's different, every market's different. Your personal life might be different than mine, so it's not going to be exact, but I want to be transparent and show you what I made so you know that I'm not just making stuff up and I'm for real and all that kind of stuff. All right, let's get started. So we're going to start with this spreadsheet, and I did my 2020 numbers and my 2021 numbers here. So income for 2020 was $14,470. And remember, I started in September, like the middle of September, the last week of September 2020. So I was just getting started. I did it part-time for probably a month before I went full-time. And so that's exactly what I made in 2020. And in 2020, after expenses, I had a net profit of $11,554.89. 2021, I got $68,790.45, and what I did was I put up my 1099 here. Now I crossed off, I blurred out the information that was specific to, my employer and my address and all that kind of stuff, but $68,405.45 is what my 1099 says. Plus, I made a little bit from another company that didn't send me a 1099, and I added that in. So $68,790.45. Now, what happened was I worked full-time up until like March, and then I kind of got burnt out because I was working so many hours and doing so much, 7 days a week. And so I slowed down in April and May, and I worked part-time, probably like 5 hours a day. So my income was cut by quite a bit in April, maybe the mid-March to like mid-May or June. And then I geared back up again, and now I'm working full-time again. Not 7 days a week anymore. I work 6 days a week because I decided I just need to have a day off. So, and that 6-day-a-week thing has been going on since, I want to say Thanksgiving, so last month and a half of the year. All right. So now we have expenses, auto insurance. I didn't calculate that last year because I forgot. So it was probably about the same amount. This year, or last year actually, didn't calculate in 2020, but in 2021 it was $440, and that was, I have both a van and a car, and I only calculated the van's insurance because the car I hardly ever use for courier work anymore. It's there if I need it. I drive it when I'm not working because my van is my dedicated work vehicle, but I don't use the car very much at all for courier work, and therefore I didn't calculate the insurance. Now this is my basic auto insurance coverage. I'm a really safe driver. I don't think I've had an accident in, I can't remember when, long time, or no tickets or anything, and so I get preferred rates, and this is for full coverage too. So I know that yours might be different and yours might be more. I don't know. This is what mine is. Plus, I have a minivan, not a full-size van. And I do not have commercial coverage because the company that I work for does not require it. So, and I talked about that in another video about how you have to get the insurance that's required by your company, so yours could be more. All right, auto maintenance, $3,272.73. So what did I do for auto maintenance? Well, I had an incident last year where I hit a curb really hard and had to replace the control arm on the driver's side. But other than that, it's just been regular maintenance. I've gotten front and back brakes, new tires only once in the last year. For as much as I drive, that's pretty good. Small things, air filters, oil changes. I get oil changes every 2 to 3 weeks, every 5,000 miles. Tire rotations, other small things. And I ask for a printout from my car guy at the end of the year, and this is a number of repairs that I've had. And I only go to the one place. So I know exactly what I'm spending. If I went to different places, I would keep receipts and total them up at the end of the year. And I do have the receipts as well, but it was nice that they gave me that printout. All right. Background checks and drug tests. I didn't have to do any this year. I'd already done them last year when I got started, and they didn't require any more. And I haven't worked for any new companies. Well, let me take that back. I have worked for new companies, but I work under an agent. I work under a courier company, and then he gets me the jobs for other companies. So my credentials with him are good enough. I don't have to do separate things for each company I work for because I'm working under him. All right, car washes. Spent more because it was a full year versus just a couple months in 2020. And I always say I'm going to get car washes like once a week or something, and then I never do. So my van gets pretty dirty. But when it's bad weather out and snow and slush and ice and it gets really bad, I will run it through the car wash sometimes every day. And there are different ones around here that I go to, and I just pretty much get the basic washes. Okay, cargo insurance. I have money taken out of every single paycheck for cargo insurance, and that's what it added up to for the year. It's not much, actually. And different companies have different policies about that. Fees and licenses. I didn't have anything this year. Gas, $8,680.13. That was my largest expense. Now, I've said this before, but I'm going to say it again. I have one credit card that I use only for gas. I don't use it for anything else. So it's really easy for me to calculate how much I'm spending on gas because everything on that card is gas. Also, it's a cash back credit card, so I get I think 3% cash back on every purchase that I make. So every few months I will turn that in and get a statement credit, and that's a couple $100s off. But that is included in this calculation. So gas was a lot more this year because I drove, for the whole year instead of just part of the year. And plus I do a lot more driving now with what I'm doing. Okay, my phone. I didn't put my phone on there last year. Because I just didn't think about it and I was just getting started. But this year, 2021, I put it on there because number one, I don't use my phone a lot if I'm not working. And number two, 95% of what I do is on my phone for work. It's running apps. I have 3 or 4 different apps installed that are related to different jobs I do. It's talking to dispatch. It's talking to customers. It pretty much is all about my work. So I'm counting my phone. Now I have a cheap phone. I have cheap service. I use Cricket. I pay $55 a month for that service. And I don't even think it was that much earlier in the year. I upgraded it $5 a month because I wanted unlimited data. So, and I wanted to be able to tether my computer, which I don't do often, but I do sometimes. So that's my phone. Supplies. I had a lot more in supplies this year. I had to buy some things to organize my van. I actually set up a small home office in my house, so I bought a little bit of furniture for that and other things. These are business supplies, so things I would not have bought if I wasn't doing this business. I bought a file box that I have in the back of my van. I think I had to buy I didn't have to buy a new printer, but new printer ink because I'm printing off manifests and I'm printing off other things that I need for my job. And I really don't use it other than that. I'm scanning things in, so I needed a scanner, which is part of the printer. Let's see what else. Just different supplies that added up to that amount of money. And also I started doing these videos, so I needed some supplies for that. I got lighting, which I never use. Bought it, but don't really use it that much. I got a desk so that I could sit here and do these screen capture videos and a couple other things. These are all business expenses because it's part of being a courier. It's part of the business. So my supplies were a lot more. Now you have to talk to your accountant or tax preparer about what are deductible as far as all of these things. So like the insurance and maintenance, I don't believe are tax deductible because I'm taking a mileage deduction off my taxes. But for me, it's still real money that I spent. Oh, gas isn't deductible either, but tax deductible and actual expenses are different. So this is what I actually spent and what my expenses were. So at the end of the year, I made $54,153.55. So over $50,000 for driving around in my car all day long. All right, let's do this by days. So let's say that I worked 365 days last year. I didn't, but I didn't actually like figure out every Sunday that I didn't work or whatever. I worked most of the time 7 days a week, not all of the time, and I'm not doing any more. So I'm just averaging and saying I worked every day. So based on 365 days, I made $148.37 a day, just under $150. And in 2020, I averaged $114.40, and that was for the 101 days that I actually worked. So I increased my income this year. My average weekly salary was $1,041.41 compared to $796.89 last year, or 2020. Keep forgetting I'm in 2022, so I should say 2 years ago, but you know what I mean. And per month, I made $4,512.80 instead of $3469.94. Now, last year, I estimated, based on the time that I actually worked, that I would have made $41,000, $41,639.24 had I worked the full 12 months. Now, jobs change all the time, so that probably wouldn't have panned out that way, but I was just averaging it. And in 2021, I made $54,153.55. And again, this is my profit after expenses. A lot of times people will tell you, like I've known some people, they're like, I made $120,000 doing courier work last year, but then they don't tell you the gas, the maintenance, the other fees, the things that it costs to do business, so you're not getting their net. I mean, look at the difference in gas here that I spent between the 2 years. I made a lot more, but I spent a lot more in gas because I drove a lot more. So if somebody isn't giving you their expenses as well as their revenues, then they're not really giving you a full picture. So also I wanted to come over here and talk about mileage. All right, in 2020, I used both the car and the van. I didn't get the van for the first couple months, so I used the car a lot. And I did 34,921 miles in 2020. In 2021, I used almost exclusively the van. I used the car, I think, one day when the van was in the shop, but for the most part, I only used the van. So a total of 86,411 miles. That's a lot. So if you take your income per mile, which is the income of the first, we're going to take the 68,790.45. That's our gross, and then we're going to take the 153.55. That's our net. So if you go by gross, I made 80 cents a mile in 2021 versus 41 cents a mile in 2020. Remember, I was just getting started out in 2020. I was figuring out things. I was just working all the time, but not really paying attention to the type of work I was doing. Or how well I was getting paid, and I got more discerning in 2021. So it's a learning curve. If you're new, expect to make less per mile because you're new, you're figuring it out, and over time you're going to make more. All right, my net, this was the 54 after expenses, the 54,000, I made 63 cents a mile after all expenses and 33 cents a mile in 2020. So there you have it. And again, keep in mind that when people give you these prices per mile, 80 cents, 85 cents, 90 cents, they're often talking about their gross before they take their expenses into account. So for me, the 63 cents a mile is more realistic, and it's because it's after all of my expenses. Now, people ask me, and I went over this last year, but I'm going to go over it again. People will ask me, how do you figure out how much you're making per hour, right? Well, because the per mile is good, but per hour is also important because you want to know what you're getting for the time you're putting in. So let's say you have a route and you get paid $100 for that route, and it's a 100-mile route, okay? So if that's true, then you are getting $1 per mile, right? 100 divided by 100 is $1. All right, if it takes you 5 hours to complete that route, that's $20 an hour. That is 100 divided by 5. That's 20. But let's say that one day you go and there's a wreck and you have to go around the wreck, and then there's some construction and you have to take a detour, or maybe have to pick up an extra stop, but you don't get paid extra. On that day, you had to drive 120 miles, and it took you 6 hours to do it because sometimes that just happens. So that day you only made 83 cents a mile, and you made $16.67 an hour because it took you an extra hour. 100 divided by 6 is $16.67. So you made less that day, but let's say there was another day that like everything was in your favor. You got every green light. Maybe one of your stops was closed and you didn't have to go. And overall, you only ended up driving 90 miles that day, and you were able to cut 30 minutes off your route. So that day, 100 divided by 90 is $1.11 a mile. So you made more than $1 a mile. And 100 divided by 4.5 hours is $22.22 per hour. So you can see that even though you did the same route for the same pay, driving conditions, other things that happen, extra stops being taken off, all sorts of different things can cause your hourly pay and your rate per mile to fluctuate. And that is just part of the job. I mean, like one job that I have, I may get to my first stop and I may be out of there in 5 minutes, or it may take me 20 minutes to get out of there, depending on if everything's ready for me to pick up, how much sorting I have to do, how much packaging. It just all depends on that. Same with doing deliveries. If I have to deliver and I have to get somebody's signature, like I can't just leave it on the door, then I have to knock on a door, ring the bell, wait for them to answer, get their signature. Sometimes it takes a while. Sometimes you can drop something off and it's 5 steps and you drop it off. Sometimes you're like getting your cart and you're going up an elevator, down the hall, around the corner, all the different places. So a stop can take anywhere from a couple minutes to sometimes 20 minutes or more, just depending. So you're always going to have fluctuations in the amount of miles you drive because of traffic situations or extra stops, and also the time it takes. So you want to get an average, like I'm making, about $1 per mile, or I'm making about $20 an hour or $30 an hour or whatever. And as you get more experienced over time, you're going to see if you can figure out ways to kind of shave that time off, up your dollars per hour, make more efficient use of the time that you're working, all of that type of thing. So I hope that you found this helpful and interesting. These, again, are real numbers. I took them off of my accounting software that I use. And, I was an accountant by trade, so yes, I do bookkeeping on an accounting software. But these are actual numbers from 2020 and 2021. You have my net here. This is exactly what I made. I'm going to make more this year, I think, because I continue to figure out ways to make more for the time that I'm working and the mileage mileage that I'm driving. I'm a little bit more discerning about the jobs that I take. If I'll figure it out, and if I don't think it's worth the time or effort, then I'll be like, no, I can't take that one. So overall, I'm doing much better than I was last year, right? All right, that is it for my 2021 income and expense recap. I hope you found it helpful. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me in the comments below, and I will see you on the road.